Everything we've been talking about so far has had securities in the portfolio, but it's also possible that you can purchase what's called a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust. So a REIT is most similar to a closed-end fund because REITs trade in the secondary market. But as you can imagine, in their portfolio is not securities, but instead is real estate. So we have two different categories of REITs. We have what are called equity REITs, which actually own buildings, commercial or residential, it doesn't matter. And then we have mortgage REITs. So mortgage REITs actually own mortgages. Which one depends upon rental income to be profitable? That would be the equity REIT. So if the REIT actually owns a building, they need tenants in the building creating rental income to be profitable. So in order to buy or sell a REIT for your client, you would have to have a Series 7 license. Similar to a mutual fund, the REIT itself only passes through profits. So when you own a mutual fund, you get a dividend distribution, you get a capital gain distribution. They can't send you a loss. Certainly you could own a mutual fund share and sell it and have a loss, but they don't distribute losses. Same thing with a REIT, they can never distribute losses, they can only distribute profits. The REIT must have at least 75% of its assets in the portfolio invested in real estate and must distribute under the Internal Revenue Code Subchapter M conduit theory that we just reviewed a minimum of 90% of their net investment income to the shareholders to avoid taxation on their net investment income. A REIT would fall into the marketability category of something like a closed-end fund. So they are liquid, they do trade in the secondary market. The other way that you can get into real estate would be through the direct participation program. So DPPs, limited partnerships. Limited partnerships are illiquid. They are not liquid. They are the worst for someone looking for liquidity because there is no secondary market. So once you buy units in a limited partnership, it's really hard to sell your units. When you are a limited partner, there is a flow through. You get what's called a Schedule K1. There's a flow through of profits or a flow through of losses, as the case may be. You are a limited partner though, and tax code says if you have a K1 that has a loss, your DPP had a loss, you can't write off that loss against your ordinary income. You can only write off passive losses against passive gains. So you'd have to have one direct participation program doing poorly and one that was doing well to be able to net those against each other. So DPPs can be formed, direct participation programs can be formed to buy real estate as well, but they do not ever meet a client's liquidity needs. So this section is really comprised of two major sections. The first we're done with now, so that is the Investment Company Act of 1940, the three types of investment companies, an understanding of open-end funds and how they work. You know a little bit about closed-end funds, exchange-traded funds, and how they work. Now we get to transition into annuities. So annuity products. There's really two major categories of annuities. There are fixed annuities, which you can sell with just your insurance license, and there are variable annuities. Generally speaking, when you're getting your Series 6 license, you already have an insurance license. Sometimes people do the opposite direction where they get their 6 first and then do insurance, but usually you get your insurance first. If you don't already have your insurance license, then this is really kind of a new topic for you. So life insurance is going to create an estate when you die. It is protection. Annuities liquidate an estate. An annuity is not protection. An annuity is not protection. An annuity product is going to have tax deferred earnings during pay-in. And we'll talk all about this. In exchange for the earnings will be taxable as ordinary income upon withdrawal. So you do not get long-term capital gains in an annuity product ever. Ordinary income is what will be owed upon withdrawal. So this fixed product can be sold with just your insurance license. It has a minimum guaranteed interest rate. The money that the client invests into a fixed annuity goes into the insurance company's what's called general account. So the general account has a guaranteed interest rate. The variable annuity puts the money not into the general account, but somewhere separate. They put it into what's called the separate account. What's the guaranteed interest rate in the stock market? It basically invests in securities. There is no guaranteed interest rate. So with a variable annuity, what's variable is the rate of return. The variable is referring to the interest rate. The interest rate is variable. So one of the major reasons for getting a Series 6 license is to be able to sell variable products. Of course, if you got your Series 7, you could sell them as well. But with your Series 6, you can sell not only mutual funds that are new, so open-end funds, you can also sell variable annuities and variable life insurance as well. So annuities are not only insurance products, so a fixed annuity is an insurance product. Insurance products are regulated at the state level, but a variable product is regulated at the SEC level as well. So the insurance part of it is regulated state by state by state, but once we get into the variable portion of it, that's regulated federally by the SEC. So we have dual regulation, two levels of regulation, as if you will. One of the things I said when we first started this is I said they are not protection. So for example, if you buy life insurance and you pay, let's say, $1,000 premium this year for a $100,000 face amount, that's your death benefit, and you die this year, how much goes to your beneficiary? This is protection. So to buy life insurance, you have to pass a physical, go through underwriting. Your rates are based upon your age, your health, your hobbies, your smoking status. Do you like to jump out of airplanes on the weekend, right? Life insurance is based upon all of these things. You must pass a physical. You have to go through underwriting. But an annuity is not work like that. So when we have this annuity product, let's just keep it simple to start off with. Let's say when you are 30, you begin putting in $1,000 into your annuity product every year. You enter what's called the pay-in period. So the insurance company doesn't care your age, your health, your gender, none of those things matter to them. It is not protection. If you die during the pay-in period, there is a beneficiary. But all they're going to do is pay the beneficiary the value of your account. There is no risk for the insurance company. This is not protection. So while you're in pay-in, if it's a variable annuity during pay-in, we have what we call accumulation units. And you die, you have not annuitized yet. You have a beneficiary. They're going to receive the value of your account, which is a whole lot different from paying in $1,000. If you die this year, $100,000 is paid to your beneficiary tax-free. That's protection. So annuities are not protection. No underwriting required. Life insurance creates an estate. An annuity liquidates the estate over a period of time. You don't ever have to annuitize. But when you do, if you chose to annuitize, you start a dollar amount monthly for life. You cannot outlive the payments of an annuity. So I can remember back when I was like in high school, I heard my dad talk about an annuity, and I thought, I want one of those. Because my family, both my dad's side and my mom's side, they lived to be like 100. So I want to know that no matter how long I live, I still get paid for life. My husband, he's always like, I don't get it. I'll just live on my savings account. Okay, fine, but he's not going to probably live to be 105 like I am. So annuities pay you when you annuitize, which you don't have to do, but if you do, when you annuitize, they pay you for life. If you die before you annuitize, there's always a beneficiary. So one of the things, there's this idea, if your client put all they could into their 401k at work, put all they could into an IRA, and they're still thinking, I want to invest, they could buy mutual fund shares or put money into an annuity. Which one has tax-deferred earnings? The annuity product does. So that is one of the benefits of an annuity. It has tax-deferred earnings during pay-in. The most common reason why people would fund an annuity is to supplement their retirement. So as such, when you get into variable annuities, they're not going to have a very super high risk investment objective. Their investment objective, generally speaking, is going to be fairly conservative. Things like long-term growth and preservation of capital. So higher level of risk in a variable product than you would have in a fixed product for sure. In a fixed annuity, when the insurance company promises to pay you, let's say 3%, what if they earn 1%? How much do they have to pay you? 3%. What if they earn 12%? How much do they have to pay you? 3%, right? So with a variable product, what are you going to earn? Who knows? But if the market's doing well, then you'll earn more. And if it's not doing as well, you're never going to die owing them money. So you can kind of think like the accumulation units, they're very similar conceptually to shares of a mutual fund. Very, very similar. It is true under federal securities laws that we have as far as what can be charged as a sales charge on variable products. So variable products, whether or not we're talking about a variable annuity or variable life insurance, variable products must charge, this is an interesting idea, a reasonable sales charge. So we call it the reasonableness standard, where under FINRA, the maximum sales charge for an open-end mutual fund share is 8.5%, and for a contractual plan under the Investment Company Act of 1940, it's 9%. So you just have to carefully read the question. Under federal securities laws, the maximum sales charge for variable contracts, reasonable, must be reasonable. I love those lawyerly terms, but generally what ends up happening is that when we do something like that, it causes the sales charges to go down. Your client can purchase a fixed annuity. I said that already. If you have a fixed annuity during payout, exactly what you get every single month, you know what it's going to be if you have a fixed annuity during payout. So it's possible it could be variable during pay-in and we can switch it to be fixed during payout. One of the concerns if your client purchases a fixed annuity, we kind of talked about this kind of risk, is that if it's earning 3% over the past 50 years, but inflation is more than 3%, what's happening to your purchasing power? It's going down. So fixed annuities have great inflationary risk. That does not mean all retired people should purchase variable annuities. Why? Because they're not suitable for many retired people because they don't like the risk that a variable annuity involves. So you have to be really careful. I can't tell you how many times lawyers will call me up and go, well, my client was improperly sold. And I think, why are you calling me? I don't know. I mean, I know a lot, but I don't think I'm the person you'd want to call to be mad about that sort of a situation. You can call the state, though. Sure. So fixed annuities, we know exactly what we're going to get every month for life. With a variable annuity during payout, what are you going to get every month? A dollar amount that varies. So that can be a very scary thing for someone. Variable annuities pay a variable amount monthly for a variable period of time because nobody really knows how long their life's going to be. Is it going to be 8 years, 18 years, 28 years? Am I going to live to be 102? I don't know. Nobody knows. You can have a combination annuity. So a combination annuity combines the guaranteed fixed payment of a fixed annuity with the variable payment of a variable annuity. So if somebody's worried about inflation, a variable annuity is a good product for them. If somebody is concerned about deflation, well, then maybe a fixed annuity. But what if somebody's concerned about both? The combination annuity would appeal to someone who's worried about inflation and deflation, attempts to provide for both objectives. So we've got fixed, that's one choice. We've got variable, and we'll talk more about this. This is more just getting them out there. We've got the combination. The newest entrant into the marketplace as far as annuity products go is this one. It's called an equity indexed annuity. A lot of times out there in the world today, you'll see them called a fixed annuity, fixed index, I have to say that right, fixed index annuity. And I'll show you why they've kind of switched to saying that. Fixed index annuity. So an equity indexed product, they were going to, a few years back, have these be securities products, but they are not securities products. What was called the Harkness Amendment said, no, they are not. As such, there is no SEC regulation over equity indexed annuities. Insurance products are regulated state by state by state, so not a security, an equity indexed product. So why is that? Because with this equity indexed annuity, what ends up happening is there is on the earnings a minimum guaranteed interest rate. Generally speaking, the minimum guaranteed interest rate on the equity indexed product is going to be less than what you'd have on a fixed annuity. Why? Depending upon the performance of the index, it is possible to earn more than the minimum. It is possible to earn more than the minimum. But in order for that to happen, what has to happen with the index? So a common index would be the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's Index of 500 large cap companies. The index must perform how in order to be credited with extra earnings? Well, positively, yes? So there's this idea, if your client is conservative, equity index products are probably not for them. Yes, they're regulated at the state level. Yes, there's insurance legislation that requires that people that sell annuities complete certain kinds of classes, depends upon the state you're in, of course. But what we really are worried about is that investors don't truly understand how these products work because they're kind of confusing. So the thing that I really think is most confusing about them is that every insurance company and the way they set up their equity index product to work is different. So the most important thing to get out of this is that they are not securities and that there's different ways for an insurance company to determine how much extra earnings might someone be credited with. How do you know how your company's works? You have to read the plan document that describes how the contract works. So several different indexing methods are available for a company to choose from in determining the change in the relevant index over the period of the annuity. So we have different ways that they can determine how the index has changed over time, and thus, what are those additional earnings? So we have the annual reset, high water mark, and point to point. Annual reset, high water mark, and point to point. The main thing here is this idea that on an equity indexed annuity, the additional earnings, if any, the additional earnings can be figured many ways, okay? Because there's a couple more terms that we're going to learn about here. Cap and participation rates. Okay, so I'm going to just put those out there for now. So these are the most common. How your insurance company does it, you'd have to really read about the product that you are offering. So the annual reset, the ratchet method, compares the changes in the index from the beginning to the end of the plan year. We ignore declines. An advantage to this method is that gains are locked in each year. So it's just like it sounds. We're looking at it on an annual basis. However, it is possible that this method may be combined with other features, such as lower cap rates and participation rates that will limit the amount of interest the client might gain each year. Okay, so exactly what are we talking about? So let's say that in the year, the S&P 500 is up 20%, okay? But depending upon your insurance company, there might be a cap of the most that will ever care as far as the performance of the index is 10%. And furthermore, that we might only give you the ability, you the investor, to participate in 50% of that, which means ultimately you're only credited with 5% in additional earnings. So there's the potential for a cap rate, which is really the highest additional earnings you can be credited with, and a participation rate, which is how much of the additional earnings will we credit you with. So cap rates and participation rates might be more strict, more stringent when we have the method of comparing the index on an annual basis, the ratchet method. The high water mark method is the second way that it can be done. So the high water mark method looks at the index at various points during the contract, usually on an annual anniversary date. It then takes the highest of these values and compares it to the index level at the start of the term. One advantage to this method is that it may credit the client with more interest than any other indexing method and protects against declines in the index. A disadvantage to the high water mark method is that since interest is not credited until the end of the term, the client may not receive any index-related gain should the client surrender the equity indexed annuity early. So if you get out before they've credited you with the earnings, you miss out on those earnings altogether. It may also be combined with other features such as lower cap rates and participation rates that will limit the amount of interest that the client might gain each year. The last method is the point-to-point method. The point-to-point method compares the change in the index at two discrete points in time, such as the beginning and the ending dates of the contract term. This method may be combined with higher cap and participation rates. Those are advantages. This may credit the client with more interest. A disadvantage to the point-to-point method is that it relies on a single point in time to calculate interest. What if it was like the worst day of the index in the past 20 years? That would be awful. Even if the index that the annuity is linked to is going up throughout the term of the investment, if it declines dramatically on the last day of the term, then part or all of the early gain may be lost. Since interest is not credited until the end of the term, the client may not receive any index-linked gain if they surrender the equity-indexed annuity early. Okay, so I have to talk about something with you for a second. All annuity products are long-term investment vehicles. They're not places that you stick your money in today if you need money out tomorrow. They are not liquid. All annuities have built into them surrender charges. So forget about the fact that any earnings you take out are taxable at ordinary income rates, plus if you're under 59.5, there's a 10% penalty. The contract itself also has early surrender charges. Generally speaking, equity index products have higher charges than just any other product would have. So any other annuity product, they will have higher charges. And it's very advantageous if one of your methods to lock in those gains doesn't occur until the very end of the contract. It's disadvantageous for you to get out early. Not a good idea. Some equity indexed annuities average an index value either daily or monthly rather than using the actual value of an index on a specific date. Averaging may reduce the amount of index-linked interest that a client may earn. Some equity indexed annuities pay simple interest and some pay compound interest. Most equity indexed annuities only count equity index gains from market price changes, excluding any gains from dividends. Since the client does not earn dividends, the return is less than if they had invested directly in the market. They are long-term investment vehicles. All annuities are, specifically equity index products as well. Generally, the surrender charges are either a percentage of the amount withdrawn or a reduction in the interest rate credited to the equity indexed product. So those are the newest on the test. I don't think you're going to have a huge emphasis on them, but a little bit about how they work. The cap rate, the participation rate, that there's different ways that they can credit you with additional earnings. They are insurance products only because they have that fixed, guaranteed minimum interest rate.